Okay, well, we are back and ready to go with Committee of the Whole. I'm going to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of January 22nd, 2026. At this point in time, I will put out a call for any declarations of interest. See no hands raised, then we'll move on to business arising from minutes. And looks like we can move on. So we will move on to our delegation, and we have virtually attending with us today. We have Dan and Cara Bowles. Thank you very much. I'll just give you a moment to turn on your video there. Okay, there you go. I can see you. Welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us virtually. And what we'll do is I'll hand the floor over to you to provide your delegation. Then I'll look to Director Hoy in terms of just providing the context in which you've been presented. And then I'm going to open it up to the committee of the whole members. So if they have any questions for you. So with that, thank you. And the floor is yours.
Okay, I believe that we are to share our screen, so we're going to do that.
Yep, that's perfect. We can see it.
Oh, can you? Okay, great. Okay.
Ready to go. Thanks so much for allowing us time to speak on behalf of the Clarksburg Village Association today. Clarksburg Village Association is a group that advocates for local businesses and for the community. And I also very much appreciate the opportunity to do it remotely. The weather is not great here. I also wanted to say, just as we begin, thanks so much to county staff for their time and for their effort that they've already given in coordinating with Town of the Blue Mountains staff to support parking measures in Clarksburg. That's been very helpful and very much appreciated. Our presentation today aims to highlight two further and connected needs in Clarksburg that the Clarksburg Village Association has presented to the Town of the Blue Mountains Council and deputations over the last few years. The first one is a request for a reduction of speed limits in the busy retail area of Clarksburg on County Road 13, also known as Marsh Street, or traffic calming measures that would assist pedestrian safety in order to help out and make sure that it's a safe, comfortable area for visitors and for community members. The next slide is the background. As you can see in the slide, the Clarksburg Village Association has presented to the Town of the Blue Mountains a few times since 2022, as I mentioned, in order to address needs for the community, including concerns regarding speed of vehicles on Marsh Street or County Road 13. Given that Marsh Street, as part of County Road 13, is under the jurisdiction of Grey County, the Town of the Blue Mountains advised us that we should present this request to the County Council. So thank you for the opportunity to do that today. Further to that, it's also my understanding that the Town of the Blue Mountains has forwarded a correspondence of support, and I hope that Grey County has received that. So the first request about reduction of speed limits on Marsh Street. More and more Clarksburg is becoming a retail area. It's a popular spot to visit. There's lots of traffic, but there's also lots of pedestrian traffic as well. Now, Town of the Blue Mountains Council and staff, they understand that there appears to be a gap in the safety zone areas from Clark Street to just past the bridge leading into Thornbury. And we'd like to just verify and confirm that that area, that busy retail area of Marsh Street, is in fact a community safety zone. And as such, can the speed limit be reduced to 40 kilometers per hour from Clark Street to Hillcrest Drive, where the school zone begins? I'd also like to mention that there have been other examples on Grey County roads. For example, in Kimberley, with perhaps slightly fewer complications, such as school areas and seniors' residence, that the speed limit has been reduced in Kimberley. So that's a good example of an area, much like Clarksburg, that has perhaps a slightly more busy pedestrian area and busy traffic. So I think there's certainly grounds to look at Clarksburg as a spot where we could reduce the speed limit. The other possibility could be traffic calming measures. Now, the retail area of Clarksburg is located between two areas of higher elevation, where there's a wide paved road and parking area without a crosswalk. As such, drivers tend to travel at perhaps a slightly higher rate of speed. And while that might save travelers a few seconds, it does create some safety concerns for pedestrians crossing the street and drivers even just attempting to park or to exit a parking space. I think there's some good ideas that have been put forward for possible ways to limit that wide open area where it seems you can just sort of zoom through in Clarksburg. I think a good example would be a pedestrian crosswalk. That would certainly help out for pedestrian safety crossing the street. But I think it also acts as a bit of a marker to help convince drivers to slow down just a little bit. It makes sense to implement possible traffic calming measures to ensure the safety of, as I've mentioned before, both local community members and visitors to the area. We want to keep everybody safe. Once again, just an example of an area with some traffic calming measures that is in fact a county road. The village of Ravenna, some of the work that was done recently in Ravenna with traffic calming measures to narrow the lanes and just help drivers to understand that it's an area where they need to slow down. Now, we do understand there's a balance to consider, keeping in mind the need to ensure ease of access for county snow removal equipment and local agricultural vehicles. But we would ask council to please address the issue to ensure safety of residents and visitors. I want to thank you once again for hearing this request by the Clarksburg Village Association and confirm once again that the town of the Blue Mountains is aware, supports the request, and has offered a letter of support. So thank you very much for hearing our presentation today, and we look forward to cooperating with Grey County Council and Grey County staff in order to implement some of those changes.
Okay, thank you very much. So what we'll do then is let me go to Director Hoy first, and then I'll open it up to the floor. I'll take in the questions for you, and so hang on there. So Director Hoy, if you wouldn't mind, just because this is shifting from a lower tier ask to an upper tier ask, things are a little different when it comes to the context of the entire county, our policy with regards to the speed limit. I know there's some clarification you can provide there, and also the context of that this is one of the roads that is part of the road exchange that we've been talking about, and perhaps what the kinds of timelines will be from there. So Director Hoy.
Yes, thank you, Warden. I wanted to just thank the Clarksburg Village Association because they have been so good to work with, like with the previous parking work, and the staff from the town as well. Nice to work with people that are kind of organized, respectful, and very polite and professional. So it's been really nice working with them through these concerns. And I just want to express that this is kind of a county-wide issue in hamlets. People are coming off an 80. They're going into a lower area. Dan mentioned in particular in Clarksburg, the width of the lanes make you feel like maybe you can go faster than you really should have than the posted speed says. They really have a good understanding of driver behavior more than just signs, and highlighted some of our work in Ravenna. But the kind of key thing I wanted to just initiate or mention was that the Road Exchange Task Force, which should be coming early February, and hopefully it's one of our final meetings, will be putting this section back to the town of Blue Mountains. So this again highlights that these town concerns, which, you know, deal with enforcement and traffic calming and the configurations of the urban areas, it just makes it that the town can address this issue itself without going through us. So rather than, you know, go back through our parking and speed bylaw and make a bunch of changes imminently, if the road is going back in July, maybe July 6th or 7th, we're hoping, we would probably wait for those changes to be enacted by the town. So although we appreciate the concern and they have a good point and we see what they're saying and we know there's issues, it's just probably easier to have the town deal with it when the properties go back or the road sections go back.
Okay, thank you, Director Hoy. So, so there's just a question of which step first. And also, in order for us to even entertain lowering down to 40 kilometers per hour on a county road, there has to be a connection to 40 kilometer an hour roads in the town as well. Can you just speak to that point?
Sorry, Warden. Yes, I did miss that. Yeah, as per our speed policy, because what happened was we were getting a lot of requests on the county road to be at 40 roads, and the rest of the hamlets or towns were staying at 50, which is probably sort of the reverse of the way it should be. So our policy that we enacted quite a few years ago was that if an entire town or hamlet wanted all their roads to be 40, we would be willing to move ours to 40 as well. We didn't want the county to be an outlier with a lower speed than all the other urban roads in the area. So that it would be something that we would want a request directly from the town to make every road a 40 as per our policy.
Okay, thank you for that context. So let me put it out to county council members if they have questions for the deputation. And I'm looking around the chamber here. I'm not seeing any. Director Hoy has mentioned that our next touch point for that road exchange is coming up in February, which is very close. And I don't see any hands up further online as well. So thank you very much, Mr. and Ms. Bowles, for sharing that information. And as you heard from Director Hoy, thank you very much for all the engagement that the Clarksburg Village Association has had thus far on the other items. We do, as you've heard, the context is both what we can and cannot do on the county roads without the town doing something, but at the same time that this one here is one that is slated for an exchange. And our next step is that we'll be convening further on that topic in February. So with that, unless you have any further items that you wanted to underscore, we appreciate all of the details that you put in your presentation material as well.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Director Hoy, for that background information. Town of Blue Mountains had mentioned to us, had expressed a desire for us to come to Grey County Council and make those concerns known, which is why we've done the presentation. And I just wanted to express a hope that that transition will happen fairly quickly.
We've done a lot of deputations. So at some point.
But more than that, every time we delay in, for example, implementing some traffic calming measures within a town, the costs go up. And I'm sure that there's concerns around downloading and uploading costs from Grey County to smaller municipalities. And that might actually be an advantage if some of that work was already done. Just a thought. I thought I'd throw it out there.
And can I just ask, I just want clarification because I've written it down because I'm going to go back to the Clarksburg Village Association and explain what was the outcome. So the outcome is in February, there's a touch point that you're talking about. And at that meeting, I assume somebody's going to vote on the fact that there's going to be an exchange, and it's going to be that portion of Marsh Street will be owned by the town of Blue Mountain, or will be governed, whatever you want to call it, by the town of the Blue Mountains. And at that point, it will be the town of the Blue Mountains that will be addressing again, correct?
Yes, you've got it almost there, and that we're looking at July in terms of exchange. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how. There is a financial exchange as well that does consider the fact that we don't download something without sharing the implication that comes financially. And with that, I have some further information for you from our CAO Schertzer.
Thank you, and through you, Warden, and thank you again for your delegation for bringing these matters forward. As Director Hoy indicated, it's been a pleasure working with the Craigleith Village Association, the Town of Blue Mountains on moving forward with those interim measures that we were able to advance based on some of the concerns that were raised. As noted, we're in a period of potential transition here, and so with that, we'll be meeting on February 5th with the Roads Task Force. Those minutes will come back to County Council on February 12th. From there, that's basically formalizing the direction that's been provided by County Council to date, which is to proceed with these transfers. We, as part of County Council's approval of the budget, there are budget financial considerations, as noted by the Warden. That's been included as part of the 2026 budget. So the next step is to formalize the timelines of when these transfers actually occur. And as indicated by Director Hoy, based on some of our proposed timelines as staff at the moment, subject to County Council approval, would be in around early July would be when these transfers would potentially occur. And again, we'd be happy to continue to work with the town to look for any quick or interim measures in between now and that transition period. But based on our current where we're at with the potential transfers of this road section, we're kind of in a state of limbo, so to speak, for the next few months.
Thank you very much, CEO Schertzer. So indeed, it has been very helpful for you to come. It is good to have that extra information for everybody here. Councillor Bourdignon and I are more familiar with that area than others will be. And this is what we do at the county here is we get to know the other communities and the other concerns. So it has been very valuable for you to be able to present this morning. I do want to go over to Councillor Bourdignon, who has raised his hand.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and for that. And a lot of it was just touched on by you and the CAO. But thank you, of course, for coming. But this even predates the deputation in 2022 back. I've been doing this for about 8 years now. So we have in the past for the Clarksburg Village Association, have asked the OPP to put in speed measurements, things like that. So it hasn't. I don't want you to think it's just been in limbo, especially now with I'm very encouraged by the roads transfer happening this year, or will have more autonomy. That's very relevant in all things we do for road closures, as well as being able to, as you said, govern our own roads. So that will be coming this summer, which I'm looking forward to. But we have in the past, asked the OPP to look at speed measurements, things like that over the years. So things have been done, that we've asked, and Director Hoy as well has looked at things over the past few years. So we are getting to the end of the tunnel where we will have autonomy over that road coming this summer. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, that's something then at the local level, we'll be able to take a more defined lens onto. So again, thank you for the deputation today, but this is something that we've been working on for quite a bit of time, and the roads exchange is probably the final piece of the puzzle.
Okay, thank you very much. And I still don't see any further hands for any questions. So thank you again, Mr. and Ms. Bowles, for presenting the material and for bringing the information back to the Clarksburg Village Association. So enjoy the rest of your day safely where you are, and we will move on with our agenda at this point in time. Thank you. So we will have a break in just a moment, but I think it would be helpful if I could just put the call out, item 5, determination of any items requiring separate discussion, just so that the staff have a heads up before we go on to a break. I'll ask, and we do have quite a list as we are coming back from the scheduling after the holidays. So we have down to K. So we've got 11 different items that are in the consent agenda. Is there anything that you would like to pull? Looking around the room here, I'll go to Councillor Eccles.
6C, please. Correspondence from Safe and Sound.
Okay, so item 6C, correspondence from Safe and Sound. And we will, looks like, Madam Clerk, that looks like all of the items that we're going to pull. So in which case then, what we will do then is, do you want me to do number 6 and then we'll do the break? Okay, so let's just then wrap up number 6. So the consent agenda is, it's recommended that the consent agenda items be received and that staff be authorized to take actions necessary to give effect to the recommendations in the staff reports, and that the correspondence be supported or received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. And it is all items less item C, which we will have a separate discussion on. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson online. Any discussion on those consent items? And all those in favor? And that motion is carried. So let's take a break now. Why don't we come back at 11:20 and we will carry on with our agenda, keeping in mind that we will be breaking at 12:10 for our lunch in order to coordinate it well with the timing of the SOS vehicle tour. Thank you. Okay, so welcome everybody back virtually and here in the chamber. We are going to continue now with our agenda. So what we'll do is we'll move to the items that are up for discussion. That is starting at section 7. And then when we get to the end of that, that's when we'll circle back to item 6C. It looks like we will continue, as I mentioned, in about 50 minutes. We will be making sure that we take an intentional pause for the tour and to schedule lunch, and we'll conclude the agenda items after that. So the first one that we have is item 7A. It's recommended that the Joint Municipal Services Committee meeting minutes dated December 16th, 2025 be adopted as presented and the following resolutions contained therein be endorsed. And there are 4 that are listed here in the published agenda. And just before I look to the Deputy CAO to speak to that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder. I've got it moved by Councillor McKay, seconded by Councillor Keaveney. It's now on the floor for discussion. So welcome, Deputy CAO, to the lectern.
Good morning, and through you, Madam Warden. I'm going to flip the minutes around in terms of my summary of the conversations of Joint Municipal Services Committee. We had a conversation around waste management. I'll do this one because it's the quick one, around waste management transition and what that might look like as an example of how Simcoe has gone through this. So Simcoe uploaded waste management from its lower tiers to its upper tier municipality in the 1990s, pre-amalgamation, working with the then, I think, 32 member municipalities it had. The transition was a complete transition. So now all waste management services exist at the upper tier level, at the Simcoe level, the county level. That transition continues. So despite being started in the 1990s, it continues to date. Simcoe now operates all the waste management facilities, waste management sites, and all the contracts. There are still a couple of financial commitments that are being met, which I believe will be wrapped up now. One of the takeaways that we took from that is, regardless of how the strategy, the service review that we're undertaking this year goes forward, the outcomes from that, if it was to look at a full county assumption, are fairly extensive and wide-ranging, and not something that happens in 12 months. And so we looked at the Simcoe example just to help put some context around the work which is just starting. In terms of that context, the waste management RFP for the service review is nearing completion, and we anticipate that being released in early to mid-February, and then the work starting after that. We think that the work is probably in the order of 9 or 10 months, and so we anticipate the early findings, the draft reports, coming forward probably early in the next term of council. The work will be guided by the support of the area municipality CAOs and the waste management community of practice, which has been meeting with membership across Grey to help the consulting team do that work. The other topic of the agenda, and we were delighted to be joined with Lindsay Johnston from the Ontario Health Team, Grey Bruce, OHT Grey Bruce, was around primary healthcare, and it was a fairly extensive report. The Services Committee had requested a comprehensive report on primary healthcare be brought back, and for members that are interested, there is a fairly extensive report embedded within the agenda for the meeting and the minutes of the meeting, which I'd be delighted to take questions on if there are any. I'll try and provide some quick highlights of that. I will also touch briefly on our conversations at Roma on this one, again, because those two pieces are quite closely linked. So across the province of Ontario, there's around about 13% of the population which is currently considered unattached to a primary healthcare team. That 13% varies quite significantly from some areas which experience numbers as high as 40% to some areas that are well beneath 10%. So there is some significant variation in that. In Grey Bruce, the number is closer to 12, and in Grey County, the number is just a shade above 11% of the population is considered to be unattached at this point in time. That equates to about 12,000 residents on the basis of the data that's gathered. We're going to circle back to the data because I think we and you have probably heard many stories which don't sound like they resonate with 11% and 12,000 people. And so there are certainly some gaps within the data. And we did have a conversation around data during the meeting and suggested some potential solutions about how we might be able to help OHTs gain more valuable insights into community connectedness with primary healthcare. I'm just trying to think. So healthcare in Grey Bruce, primary healthcare is a complex beast. It's delivered at the minute through 17 different organizations. We had a little bit of a talk around the structure of how that system works, and it's made up of two pieces. So the FHNs and the FHOs, FINs and FOs, are groups of doctors, primary care physicians that come together to operate joint shared services. And they receive their funding directly from the province on the basis of billing and on the basis of rostered patients. And so these are the physicians that make up the doctors that we have locally. The second piece of the team is the FHTs, the family health teams, and indeed to some extent the community health centre in the south of the county. And these are groups of primary healthcare givers, allied professionals, allied health professionals, and all the wraparound supports that you'd normally expect to find within a doctor's surgery that work with the doctors. And so family health teams don't employ doctors themselves. They work with one or more FHOs or FHNs who come into those family health teams to provide the physician coverage. The family health teams are made up of administrative supports. They're made up of dietitians, nurse practitioners, and various other different professionals that can help a community's primary healthcare needs. So when you go and see a primary healthcare team, you might be rostered to a doctor. You may never see your doctor. You may only see a nurse practitioner that works alongside of them, either within a family health team context or within one of the FHOs or the FHNs. It's important to understand the context of the complexities. We spent a large amount of the meeting talking about the complexities of the primary healthcare network because the billing is important to understand. So family health organizations, FHOs, and the family health networks, FHNs, the groups of physicians, they receive funding through a direct billing model. So they bill the province for their time, they bill the province for the number of patients they have rostered, and they receive a payment direct from the province. And that's to pay for their insurance, it's to pay for their administrative support, it's to pay for any other services they might provide within their FHO or FHN. Family health teams, community health centres, receive a direct payment from the province. There's no billing that's involved, so the staff that work for them are salaried staff that are paid on provincially set established rates. The system is managed through the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health manages itself, so it sets the corporate directions, the policy directions and the policy setting for healthcare, primary healthcare across the province of Ontario. The way in which that is then implemented is through Ontario Health. Ontario Health is broken down into a number of different regions, of which we are part of Ontario Health West. We also noted that the border at the eastern side of the county is in fact the border between Ontario Health West and Ontario Health Central. And so for residents that cross over that western border, they will be crossing over different Ontario Health West, Ontario Health networks. The Ontario Health regions are themselves very large. They're the bodies that give the money to do the work. But because they are so large and healthcare is such a localized issue, they operate through a network of some 56 OHTs or Ontario Health Teams. Ontario Health Teams are collaborative organizations that represent and work with all the primary healthcare providers in an area to understand what the needs are, what the shortages are, where the gaps are, and they work with those teams to establish the priorities for how to fix them. So for us, we're represented by Ontario Health Team Grey Bruce, OHT Grey Bruce. And again, the border on the eastern side of the county sees us trip over into Ontario Health South Georgian Bay, which is a separate Ontario Health team. So Lindsay Johnston is the Executive Director with Ontario Health Trust, OHT Grey Bruce. And she works with those 17 different organizations to try and come up with the solutions for healthcare, primary healthcare needs across that region. Okay, just going through my notes here. So as we went through the conversation, it became increasingly clear that OHT is a critical part of the pie, and Grey County and municipalities working with the OHTs to try and advance the needs of primary healthcare in this area is the key to success. And so we talked a lot about what that would look like. OHTs at the minute are the principal organisation that's able to access the funding streams that back up the provincial direction to make sure that all residents are connected to a primary healthcare team by 2029. And so the way in which that is being done at the minute is through something called the IPCT, Interprofessional Care Team model. And funding for that goes through a number of windows. There were 2 last year, and 1 last year, 1 early this year. And those IPCT funding models applications are put in through OHTs to support, in our case, the 17 different organizations' needs to connect more residents with primary healthcare teams. So the first round of IPCT funding last year delivered around about $1 million of funding to Grey Bruce OHT and the various teams within. And this second funding round, the applications were submitted earlier this month, and those, in December. The application for Grey Bruce was based by the new master plan for connectivity in Grey Bruce, and was for just over $6 million, and we're waiting the decision from that. As I say, there's a healthcare plan, a master plan that the Ontario Health Team has developed for Grey Bruce, and the OHT plan for Grey Bruce indicates that we need about 80 new full-time professionals to support connecting and attaching everybody to primary healthcare in this area, and that the grand cost of that is around about $11 million. The master plan articulates a 3-year timeline to implement that, which is made up in phases, starting with attaching and ending with making sure that we have sustainable funding. One of the things that we reflected on was that 2029 target that the province has set, which feels very ambitious when we know that it takes 7 years to train a family health physician. And so how does the province want to achieve that? And the reality is that what they're trying to do at this point in time through the IPCT funding is attach more patients to the existing doctors, as well as looking to add where they can doctors to take on where there are retirements, where there's natural transition, and where there are shortages and capacity for doctors to move into the area. So the driving force between ICPT funding, the IPCT funding, and the work of the Ontario Health Team and those 17 organizations they work with is to set the stage for the doctors that are already in this area, as well as new doctors coming to this area, to increase the number of residents and patients they can sign up. That is going to rely quite heavily on nurse practitioners. The province has established a metric that suggests for every nurse practitioner that's added to a family health team, approximately 800 to 1,000 new patients can be rostered to the doctors that participate in that family health team. So the drive behind those 80 staff over that first 3 years of the master plan is really to build the wraparound supports that we have within Grey Bruce around the existing 17 healthcare teams, to make sure that more residents are able to sign up within the teams that we have at this point in time. So there's a drive towards making sure all the FHNs and all the FHOs, all the physicians that are currently in the area, are working with a family health team or indeed a community health centre, so they can access that funding and access the supports through the OHT, and can sign up more residents onto their lists. Circling back to the data piece, we did talk a little bit about Healthcare Connect. Healthcare Connect is the provincial system onto which residents can sign up if they are unattached at this point in time, and that will help allocate unattached residents to primary healthcare teams. There's been quite a lot in the media around the effectiveness of Healthcare Connect. However, the province has confirmed that is the system that they are going to use. It is the one clearinghouse for the way in which they're going to connect residents with primary healthcare teams. They made some significant changes to Healthcare Connect last year, and so you don't actually need to be disconnected from a primary healthcare team to sign up for Healthcare Connect at this point in time. So if you've moved to the area and you've retained a family physician 200, 300, 400 kilometers away in your previous community because you didn't want to lose the contact with a primary healthcare physician, you can still sign up to Healthcare Connect so that you can sign up and be considered unattached at that point, and that will help the data. So one of the actions that Joint Municipal Services Committee endorsed was Grey County working with member municipalities and OHT to increase awareness around how to make sure that you're connected with Healthcare Connect, so that you're on the right list, and that we can help clarify some of those data so that we're more reliable on the 12,000 or thereabouts residents that are unattached at this point in time, and the number of people. We also talked about some of the challenges that the OHT experiences. So OHT is funded on year-to-year funding windows by Ontario Health. And so when you have an executive director comes in, they have to form relationships, as I say, with 17 different organizations within Grey Bruce, and they have to understand the nuances of healthcare provision in Owen Sound, within Indigenous communities, and in communities on the North Bruce, and in Hanover. So they have a significant breadth of a scope of role, and a significant number of people they need to make contact with. And so the short-term fixed appointments that are currently being run to support the OHTs is a challenge. It's a challenge for finding, retaining, and recruiting staff, and it's a challenge for making sure there's consistency. And so one of the things we talked about there was some ways in which municipalities might be able to support the work of OHT by providing access to perhaps some of the things that we do. So things like communication support. How can we help deliver their work effectively across the area? And there was some good conversation around that. These really informed our Roma delegation quite heavily. And so we were able to be joined by Lindsay at our delegation with the Associate Minister for Health when we were down in Toronto earlier this week. We had good conversations around that. We also talked a little bit about wage standardization. As I say, nurse practitioners, as an example, although they're not the only one, a nurse practitioner employed within a family health team setting is paid on an established provincial wage grid. And as we know, the province has capped inflationary increases on provincial staff over recent years after a pay freeze. And what that's led to is 2 levels of pay associated with nurse practitioners, as an example, not the only one, where they're paid differently within a hospital setting than they are within a family health team setting, which again exacerbates a problem associated with staff retention and engagement. So we had a conversation with the minister around that. We had a conversation at Joint Municipal Services on that. And we talked about the desire to work in innovative partnerships with OHTs to advance the aspirations of primary healthcare across communities in Grey County. The Associate Minister seemed very supportive of the ideas that we shared, and indeed has asked us to follow up with the Minister in coming weeks, and we will be doing so. So I think I've covered off broadly the contents of that. And I apologize, I went into a little bit more detail. I'm trying to summarize what was quite a complex report and a really good conversation that we had at the Joint Municipal Services table. And I'll be happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Deputy CAO. Please don't apologize because this is such a relevant topic, and the fact that there are so many moving pieces of the puzzle and so many different partnerships involved in this, I think it's worthy of taking that extra time to share the details. So thank you. We'll go to the Deputy Warden for a question or comment.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, indeed, it is very complex. Now, I forget you said for the unattached patients in Grey County, we needed approximately 80 additional allied health professionals. Was there any discussion, or has there been any discussion as to physically where are those people going to work if they did exist? Because, yeah, where are they going to practice?
So through you, Madam Warden, great question. Yes, there is. So part of the work that the OHT has done is looking at where there is space for those new professionals to come into. There are within that 80, there's no new practices at this point in time. There is some capital funding, and there's a slightly different stream for capital funding to enhance spaces and to expand spaces where that's needed. And certainly it's not a problem in the next couple of years, but by year 3, having the space for all of those additional people to work from is going to become a pressure. The OHT is also aware that there are pressures within. And so one of the things that we did have a conversation about, both at Joint Municipal Services and highlighted again in front of the Associate Minister, was there's a number of already good collaborative relationships. I'm going to pick on your colleagues in Chatsworth at this point in time who host a surgery actually out of the municipal offices. And so one of the things that we suggested might be a possibility is to work with municipalities to understand where we have existing facilities that might be able to be opened up to support local healthcare in local communities as the staff start to build up. And so that was a good conversation. But certainly as we get to that full capacity, there is a recognition that there's a space pressure, and OHT is working with those 17 different groups to identify where there's capacity and where there may not be capacity.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? We'll go to Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs, and thank you very much now for going into all that detail today. We had great conversation at the Shared Services Committee. I just wanted to touch on a comment that Minister Sylvia Jones made at Roma, where she talked about incentives and suggested that we all need to stop that. And I think that's next to impossible, but I just wanted to suggest that perhaps that be a topic of conversation at our next Shared Services Committee, and ask for your thoughts on that today.
So thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Warden, that was in my notes and I skipped over it. Thank you, Councillor Keaveney, for the reminder. So yes, Minister Jones did articulate the fact that and she used some strong terms, but the competition that exists between municipalities for a finite resource is actually not helping. Often the connection and attachment of residents to primary healthcare. She did put down a baton that stop. There's no mechanism for forcing people to do that. It was a request rather than anything else like that. It was a conversation we had at Joint Municipal Services as well. And indeed, for anyone that wants to follow the links embedded within that report to the Auditor General report, the Auditor General has highlighted this as one of the significant barriers to reaching levels of attachment. And really, this stems to the fact that primary healthcare can't be solved at a municipal landscape. It can't really be solved at a county landscape. It's a regional landscape. And so the important thing, that the takeaway we took from our conversations with OHT, that we really do need to elevate this to that Bruce County, that Bruce Grey regional approach. The OHT units are set up so they can apply that regional approach, and there might be better ways and different ways of us leveraging that funding. In terms of Grey County's ability to ask member municipalities to alter that, that's something which will take some significant additional conversation, because member municipalities are able to allocate their budget as they see appropriate. But yes, we're looking for opportunities where we can provide frameworks which allow for collaboration across Grey County, and we'll be increasingly looking to work with our colleagues in Bruce County as well to make sure that we're aligned on that.
We'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, Warden, and thank you for the very detailed explanation. And I appreciate that you touched on the Health Care Connect, because that 11 to 12%, I suspected, and you did mention this in your speech there, that it's potentially that people are attached to a physician or primary health care, but they're traveling 2 to 3 hours to get it. I can speak for myself. That took 8 years to get a nurse practitioner in a nearby county, but I wouldn't let go of my doctor in Toronto. The question I have is, how do we get the message out to those who are attached to a physician or primary health team in another community, a distance away, to register for Health Care Connect as that category, and assure them that they're not going to lose their practitioner until such time as they're attached to someone, within 30 minutes or an hour?
So through you, Madam Warden, and thank you for the question again. So first off, I think conversations like this, the tens of thousands of people that will tune into this meeting afterwards, will go away much richer for knowing that they can sign up to Healthcare Connects regardless of their current attachment standard. We'll probably need to do a bit of a better job. The fact that as a newcomer to Grey County, who's been on a waiting list for some period of time, having abandoned my primary healthcare team, I found out about this when I happened to have lunch with the executive director of OHT. And if that's the communication method by which you're finding out things, we can do better. And so one of the things we discussed at Municipal Service Committee, and that I think we can do, is we will be working with a bit of a media campaign in partnership with OHT, in partnership with member municipalities and with Bruce County, to really start trying to get the word out, get some radio adverts out there, get some stuff in the papers. And I see a couple of members of the press behind me who may wish to articulate this in their stories and following up from today. But if there are opportunities for us to share that, we will be looking for those opportunities. And I think that's something we can pick up the baton fairly quickly on this year without any expense beyond what's in our existing budget. So I look forward to us continuing those conversations quite early on this year.
Thank you for that. And I think that will give us, as you said, better data as to those who are truly, they may be attached to to primary health care somewhere else, but not locally. And I'm happy to, when we get that social media piece or press release out, then each of us can then share it out into our communities.
Okay, next we'll go to Councillor Bobby.
Thanks. I've said this before, but this is the coolest committee for anybody to sit on because we're discussing stuff like this. Big thank you to Shirley, who put up more dots than any of us in doctor recruitment for this committee and all the rest of us. After that meeting, it became so clear that it has to be at this level, not all of us getting into what doctors call the Hunger Games fight to go out and try and attract doctors. Doctors that receive money to come for 5 years go somewhere else after 5 years. There's lots of studies on that. This meeting blew me away, and this is only the first topic. Wait till we get to the next one in one meeting. The Ontario Health Team was a whole new thing for me. Ms. Johnson brought a lot of slides that I encourage everyone to go and look at the agenda to see the slides that came with it that are very informative, and we're going to have to get more of this out. The other thing that I learned, which I thought was really interesting, is we're not talking about doctor recruitment as such. That's like, I want to win the Stanley Cup, not how are we going to score more goals than them. It's the increased family physician capacity and attachment. That's the groundwork that we've got to do, but we've got to do it regionally and not get into competition with others within ourselves. So this meeting was amazing. The Ms. Johnson was amazing with knowledge. Niall certainly deserves compliments for learning and becoming a bit of an expert on it to help us understand it, because it is complicated, and it was a good meeting. So thank you.
Okay, we're going to go over to the CAO.
Through you, Warden, and thank you for those comments. I think, as Niall has indicated, this is quite an area that's it's quite complex, and learning more about what the complexities and how we can navigate through these, I think, is absolutely critical. And that navigation is starting with the Grey Bruce OHT and helping to support them in the work that they're doing, for sure. And so with that, as Councillor Body indicated, the slides that Lindsay shared as part of that, we want to have Lindsay come to all of council at some point this year to be able to come as a delegation to provide that information. I think Bruce County is planning to do the same. So again, that way we're all have the information that we need collectively in order to communicate this to our residents, our communities, and work together in order to advance this work so that we can leverage hopefully some funding that we'll hopefully be able to receive to attach patients that are desperately needed to healthcare providers.
Excellent. We'll go over to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And just real quickly, as good as this work is, the conversations and everything else, let no one forget, this is the province's work that we're doing for them.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. And yes, and I concur. The more FaceTime that we can have with Lindsay Johnson, the better. I have learned an incredible amount on this portfolio by the interaction that we're having with her, and especially navigating the province's work and all of the acronyms that go with it and all of the organizational, to have that person who's within it to be able to help us understand it for our communities and look to how we can best be those partners is very helpful. Okay, so with that then, don't see any further hands up, so I think we're ready to call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. So the next one is item 7B. It's recommended that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated January 12th, 2026 be adopted as presented, and the following resolutions contained therein be endorsed. There are 6 of them published here in the circulated agenda. And if I could ask for a mover and a seconder, we'll look to the clerk for some further information. So it's moved by Councillor Eccles, seconded by Councillor Patterson online. It's now on the floor for discussion. So welcome, Madam Clerk, to the lectern.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Warden. The Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee met on January 12th for the first meeting during the 2026 year. At that meeting, they started off electing both a chair and a vice chair for the committee. Catherine Schultz was elected as chair and Councillor Scott Gregg as vice chair for the remaining council term. We heard a presentation from the City of Owen Sound regarding a policy update to their official plan and zoning bylaw, coming as a result of some changes made to provincial legislation, followed by a report from Anne Marie Shaw on the Early On Center in Hanover and discussing the accessibility components of that project. There was a further report on the Grey Highlands Accessibility Progress Report and some funding opportunities related to accessibility that were cited as well. I may be limited in the details that I can answer on some of those items, but I'm generally happy to answer any questions if the committee has any.
Okay, any questions on that? I'm not seeing any hands online. Looking around the room, not seeing any hands here. Looks like all the information was provided for us. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is passed. Thank you. So that allows us to move on then to item 7C. We're working at a good clip here. Next, it's recommended that report FRCW 0326 regarding resort condo tax classification be received and that staff be directed to provide correspondence to the Ministry of Finance requesting that the ministry review and amend the population threshold in Ontario Regulation 28298 issued under Section 14.2 of the Assessment Act to ensure that the resort condominium tax class remains an available option for the county to continue to apply in consultation with the town of the Blue Mountains. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Got it moved by Councillor Bordenhill, seconded by Councillor Dobreen. It's now on the floor for discussion. CAO Schertzer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Warden. So this report provides an overview of the resort condo property tax class. This tax class is unique to Grey County and serves approximately 1,200 resort condo units that are located within the Blue Mountain Village that help support our local tourism economy. Earlier this year, the Ministry of Finance asked both the Town of Blue Mountains and Grey County whether we would support the province amending the regulation governing the resort condominium class. The request came from the Blue Mountain Village Association, asked the province to consider such amendments. The town has provided a letter to the ministry requesting that the Ministry of Finance review and amend the population threshold in that regulation to ensure that this tax class remains available. County Council is being asked by the ministry on whether the county would be supportive of this request and have asked for correspondence to be sent similar to the letter that was sent by the Town of Blue Mountains, which was attached to the report. Grey County has undertaken a review of the resort condo tax class in collaboration with the town, as well as municipal tax equity consultants, and that report is attached to this report as well. Just to provide some background with respect to this. So in 2004, MPAC reclassified resort condo units within the Blue Mountain Village from residential to commercial based on an update to the hotel assessment legislation. As noted in the MT report, this reclassification resulted in almost immediate and significant property tax increases, created some market instability with a number of units being listed for sale, resulted in a decrease in property values and created instability within the local accommodation market. In response, the province created the resort condo property tax class in 2005 through regulation. The OT tax class applies to furnished condo units providing short-term accommodation, less than 30 days, within a defined year-round resort area that includes both a downhill ski complex, 18-hole golf course, and that the owner of the units be a member of a nonprofit corporation. The Blue Mountain Village Association fulfills that nonprofit corporation requirement through actual legislation called the Blue Mountain Village Association Act. As noted, Grey County currently remains the only jurisdiction in Ontario that meets all the regulatory criteria needed to use this tax class. Once the regulation was in place, Grey County, with the support from the Town of Blue Mountains, adopted the optional tax class and has maintained that optional resort condo class since that time. The resort condo tax class applies a tax ratio of 1, same as residential, to ensure fairness and stability for these unique accommodation units. These properties are key to the town's and regional role as a 4-season tourism destination, and as noted earlier, contribute significantly to the local economy. This option tax class better reflects the use and characteristics of these short-term accommodation units. One of the legislative criteria is that this class can only apply in municipalities with a population of 10,000 or less. And based on the upcoming 2026 census, the Blue Mountains is expected to exceed 10,000 residents. If the regulation is not amended, NPAC would likely be required to eliminate the tax class administratively without county discretion. More than 100 property owners have already submitted written comments to the town regarding the possible elimination of tax class and recommending that support to maintain this tax class. There are several implications if this tax class is eliminated, and I'll cover one of them, and I'll turn it over to Mary Lou to help cover some of the more financial tax-related implications. One of the impacts is tourism and economic impacts. So this class was created to support, again, the distinct needs of a 4-season resort community. The loss of the class could undermine the accommodation affordability, competitiveness, and ongoing resort development plans that are planned for the Blue Mountain Village. It may also reduce visitor capacity and negatively affect accommodation tax revenue, as well as negatively impact local employment. And I'll turn over to Mary Lou to talk about some of the tax impacts, as well as some of the financial considerations as it relates to this report.
Thanks, Randy. So I'll talk about the impact of the elimination. So Randy's mentioned that when the next census, we anticipate will move the population to over 10,000. Without an amendment to the regulation, MPAC will likely reclassify properties currently in the resort condo class, which we call the OT class, that's the short form, to the commercial class. If they move to the commercial class, it's going to increase the property tax component by about 30%. And further, if the education tax is now applicable, the provincial education tax rate applied to commercial properties is more than 5 times higher than the residential rate. With the elimination of the class, the tax burdens for these properties, if you consider local, county, and education, their tax bills will approximately double. Overall, it's important to note that the elimination of the class doesn't generate revenue for the county or the town. So when we passed the bylaw to adopt revenue expenditures at our last council meeting, that contains the amount that we are required to raise from property taxes from the levy. The levy will not change if the tax class ceases to exist. So based on the assessed values in each property tax class, the tax burden is redistributed to tax classes, so that creates shifts within classes and shifts within municipalities. When the tax class was introduced in 2005, the population of Town of the Blue Mountains in the 2001 Stats Canada census was 6,116. It increased to 6,825 in the 2006 census and 9,390 in 2021. When concerns were raised in 2005 about a population threshold of 10,000, they were barely over 6,100, and the response was that this could be reviewed in the future. County staff supports sending a letter to the ministry to review and amend the population thresholds within the regulation. As Randy mentioned, the Blue Mountains has issued correspondence to the Ministry of Finance asking for a population amendment. This would allow the class to continue and for this to be a local policy decision that is not eliminated on an administrative basis. And as we've mentioned, MPAC would likely be required to eliminate the class because we population out. Should the ministry agree to amend the population threshold, this would allow Grey County, and through consultation with the Town of the Blue Mountains and all of the member municipalities, to continue to have local control over this optional tax class. The report prepared in 2024 by MT is attached. that addressed the question of what level in the municipal structure had the ability to maintain or eliminate this optional property tax class. In a two-tier system such as Grey County and its 9-member municipalities, setting tax policy is the responsibility of Grey County as the upper tier municipality. So that's why the question is here, because we're the ones that set tax policy on behalf of all the member municipalities. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for setting that context, and it is indeed a unique scenario, so I'll look around for any questions or comments regarding the recommendations in this report. Not seeing anything in the chamber. Looking online for any hands up. Not seeing any hands raised there either, so I think we've considered the information. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, both of you, for providing that. So we have, I think we'll hazard to try one of the two reports that Director Shaw will not reports, but one will next call on item 7D, and then I know that we'll need to return to 6C, but that's going to have to be after lunch. So Director Shaw, if you want to get ready for this one. This is recommended that the report CSR CW 0726 regarding early on redevelopment request for proposal results be received, and that Alan Hastings be awarded the early on redevelopment project in the amount of $1,928,129 exclusive of HST, and that the unbudgeted funds in the amount of $312,064 be funded from the Early Learning and Childcare Department 2025 surplus, and that the remaining funds from the Child Care Mitigation Funding Reserves, and that action be taken prior to council approval as per section 26.6B of procedural bylaw 513422. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Carleton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. It's now on the floor for discussion. So welcome, Director Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So this report is looking at awarding the early on redevelopment project to Alan Hastings. In June of 2025, the county purchased land in Hanover for the redevelopment of our early on. Our current early on is not meeting our needs, and there's opportunity to build a new one to meet accessibility, parking, and other issues. We then, in August of 25, we contracted JPM Architecture to provide the schematic design and the tender documents for our build. As you can have a look on the screen, the schematic design includes a large indoor and outdoor storage area that can be accessed from the covered porch, which is outside, or the playroom. There are 2 playrooms with a sliding door that could allow separation or could allow one large area. The kitchen has 3 sinks for washing the many toys that we wash in a week. It also has a hand sink, dishwasher, fridge, microwave, and an island for a working space. There are 3 bathrooms that were required for this space. 1 barrier-free washroom, 1 with a change table that's located off of the playroom, and a staff bathroom. There are 3 office space, which include a flex office for visiting services such as speech therapy. We have 1 meeting room with capacity for 8 people, and we have a vestibule. The vestibule has a very large area off to the left when you walk in, so for bags, for coats, but also for strollers. We have a lot of people that do walk to the early on in Hanover. We have laundry facilities on site, and our mechanical system is an all-electric variable refrigerant flow system, so there is no reliance on fossil fuels at this site. I did attend the accessibility committee and very grateful for the suggestions that they provided for me too, and we will make sure that they are all implemented into our plan. So the tender documents were readied by JPM Architecture, and the proposal was put out there December 2nd and closed January 6th. We received 4 bids, the lowest bid being 1.92 million and our highest being 2.7 million. Alan Hastings, as many know, is a local company, and we have worked with them in the past. Financial implications, before the budget, we did not have a Class D estimate. We had a guesstimate from staff and we guessed around the 1.65 million, which we put into the budget. In November, we did get a Class D estimate from JPM at 1.7. But our bid, the results of the RFP did come in at 1.92. We do have funds in order to move forward with the project from our early on accessibility reserve, our early on building reserve, and some mitigation funding. We will be looking at selling the existing building, and whatever funds we do receive from that will go back into our mitigation funding reserve. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for those details. Any questions? I'll look around the chamber. Councillor Greg.
Thank you. My question is, in the recommendation here, the contractor would do great work, so no questions at all. We had the tender documents done in advance. I wonder why in this instance we did a request for proposal as opposed to straight tender. Is there something in our policies that distinguish or guides us one way or the other for that? Thanks.
So we did do a straight tender. It was a tender, but we did invite people to, and we also put it out.
Okay, any further questions? Not seeing anything online or here in the chamber. Call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Now, Director Shaw, perhaps don't go too far because for one thing, I have been advised by the clerk that we could perhaps finish our agenda if we just move swiftly through the remaining items, but also that we're hearing that the weather is again turning in the south part. So we want to make sure that people have that option. Let's see how we do. So if you want to hold on, because we'll now circulate to the one item that was pulled from the consent agenda. It's recommended that the correspondence received from Safe and Sound Grey Bruce regarding the development of a 26-bed homeless shelter be received for information. They ask for a mover and a seconder. It's moved by Councillor Nielsen online, seconded by Councillor Pringle. It's now on the floor for discussion. So I'll look first then to the council member who pulled it. I'll look to Councillor Eccles, and Director Shaw will be on standby.
Thank you. And I think this, don't get me wrong, Safe and Sound, what they've done for the community, you know, and directly to the city of Owen Sound and the community at large, has been great for what they've put in. One of my concerns, though, I mean, we as a county are supporting them and, you know, certainly helping them out. But something I was made aware of coming online just the other day, how broad this is a problem that has become, because we have another county that's close by that is not quite emptying their problem, but emptying their problem on us. There's a fact from the Saugeen Shores Police that if you're homeless and whatnot in Saugeen Shores, give us a call and we will run you over to Owen Sound. If you're in a problem and whatnot somewhere in the southern part of Bruce County, run you over and we'll put you up in Hanover. Grey County will look after you. And it's not really related to what is going here, but it's certainly Safe and Sound have 26 beds. And how much is Bruce County putting into Safe and Sound in their portion of it? And I don't want to put it onto that fact, and certainly don't want to sound like some president from south of the 49th parallel that said you're emptying your prisons and dropping everybody on us. But I guess that's where it is kind of getting to is, you know, how much are we supporting in Grey County and Safe and Sound and our own beds from other, and I just feel like it's being taken advantage of. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any comment, Anne?
Thank you, Councillor Eccles, and we're going to try to keep the commentary based on the actual correspondence that was received. It is part of a broader question that we can always engage in a conversation with our sister county. We have been experiencing excellent relations with our sister county, and I do want to make sure that we continue that and we keep our dialogue open and we look to have the right moments for conversation. The fact that there's going to be an expansion with Safe and Sound is wonderful news, and this is a good pivot point. This is a good point for us to be in touch that way. So I would ask that we consider that as we move forward. Feel free to share anything that's with regards to this correspondence. Yes, our county does make a $24,000 contribution. Perhaps you could remind people of what it is that we do. Let's just speak on what we do, and be able to be considerate and continue the dialogue from there. So, Director Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Warden. We do provide $24,000 in county levy dollars towards the operations. We also provide $230,000 through our HPP funding, which is our homelessness prevention plan, which is provincial funding for the operating dollars that keeps our winter warmth program running, the winter warmth program running. It is well needed. We all know that, especially on days like today, that people do find themselves in emergency situations where they do need housing. I did have a look, and for November and December, the statistics showed that there were only 9 people that came from Bruce County that accessed services at Safe and Sound. And I must remind everybody too that Safe and Sound is a charity and they do a lot of great work. And their philosophy is whoever presents at the door, they will assist. So I think that yes, as Madam Warden pointed out, there is some opportunity as we're moving forward now with a 24-hour shelter, 365 days a week or a year, to have conversations with Bruce County, and we will certainly have those. But an excellent thing for our community and well needed.
Okay, thank you. Is there any, we'll go to Councillor Greg.
Thank you. And I think it just underscores the importance of this to be funded from the province or upper levels of government. We certainly have it asked upon us a couple times a year, perhaps in Owen Sound, that we should be getting involved in such initiatives. But as Councillor Eccles pointed out, it's very difficult to inherit a significant challenge that is much broader than our municipal boundaries, and that's why it's they do great work there, and it's so dire that it be funded by the county as well with their contributions, but by the province with their significant contributions, because it's servicing people from much further beyond Owen Sound's borders, beyond Grey County's borders. I know OPP drop people off through the week at all hours and their service, which is wonderful, but it's that kind of level of service certainly cannot be borne by the local taxpayer to maintain. So great to have upper levels supporting it.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Boddy.
Our police services total expenditure is over $15 million. Our city police budget, taxpayer to the levy, is $9,350,000. We're constantly hearing from the public that people are being shipped into our area, and we're coming here and getting statistics saying, no, that's not the case. And then there's something that's very clear that it is happening. So I think Safe and Sound is doing a good job. I don't think they should say no to anybody that comes to their door, but I think that we should realize beyond the federal government or provincial government money that's coming, the city of Owen Sound is carrying a police budget of $9,350,000 that is dealing with a lot of people on the street. We had a presentation at our budget meeting last Friday that said X number of incidences are coming from 10 people. I forget the exact numbers. Huge numbers, narrow. It's a lot more than just the money that the county is putting into Safe and Sound when other municipalities are shipping in people that they should be dealing with themselves. it is their residents that they shouldn't be shipping over the border for someone else to deal with, but thanks.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate all the thoughtful commentary on this, and I know that all of us share the same common goal of making sure people have a safe place to be at night. So it is very much appreciated. I do respect fully the host community's perspective and what you hear and what you deal with. But I also thank Councillor Gregg for his comment that I have always said when 444 communities are experiencing the same thing, or nationally, when 3,500 communities are experiencing the same thing, like affordable housing, or in this particular case, those who are unhoused and how to help service them, it really does call upon the upper levels of government to work with us on solving it with the local lens at each and every level. So I think that's part of the fruitful conversation. Perhaps this will be the jumping point as we are celebrating the fact that there is an expansion of services to be able to continue very thoughtful dialogue on this. So thank you. Okay, so not seeing any further hands up, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. We don't have any closed meeting matters to do, so we will skip down then to we'll do the other business of Roma, and I'm just watching the snow fly across the window there. So we'll bring CAO Schertzer. While he's moving to the lectern, I'll just open it by saying, how impressed I was with everyone who was coming from Grey County, whether you were there for your own municipality, whether you were there as part of a county delegation. People were there ready to talk to the provincial government and ready to talk to each other and learn from each other in terms of the programming. I did not experience much of the programming because of the number of the delegations, but that's a very key important part of going to this conference. This isn't a sideline. It makes a lot of sense to bring all the ministries together and be available to all of our municipalities. So I was very impressed with the participation, but I really do want to shout out to all of the staff members and the information that you put together in the reports, the submissions that we have prepared so that we're able to come to the table and have fruitful conversations. And then each and every one at each delegation we did with the county, various different senior staff members, and I'm sure CIO Schertzer will delve a little bit further into that. We're ready to go with the conversation on what would be the best for our communities and how we could problem solve together with the province. I think that was an important way in which we opened and closed our dialogues, and I felt prepared at every delegation because I knew that I was sitting with an incredible Team Grey. So my thanks to all the staff who are ready to do that. My thanks to all of my colleagues who were able to join us for the county ones, or were very importantly going off to your own town ones at that point in time. So with that, CAO Schertzer, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Warden. And recognizing that the weather is not the greatest at the moment, I'll keep this short. Maybe we'll do a follow-up report for the next council meeting just to provide a bit more information as part of that. But I do want to say again, thank you to all that attended. We had a number of community partners also join us. We had Georgian College representatives. We, as you heard earlier, Graybers OHT, Lindsay Johnson joined us for some of these delegations. I think having those partners at the table too, recognizing that we're all working together to try to get through some of these challenges was well received by the various ministers and associate ministers that we met with. I just want to say that we did have 8 delegation requests. We received all 8. We probably walked away with some commitments and next steps with each and every one of them, which is good to see. We will be following up with each of those ministries and their staff with respect to those action items and next steps. And but again, recognizing that the weather is turning a bit, I will maybe keep my comments just brief like that. I do want to do one quick shout out though. There was a panel on Tuesday morning that the warden was part of regarding leading the way on Ontario's economic resilience. And I think this just highlights some of the work that we are doing collectively together with community partners. The warden did an incredible job representing Grey County, highlighted the ways we have been supporting local businesses and building our economic resilience locally in response to the changing trade landscape. I know there were a number of councillors, staff, in attendance in that audience, as well as a number of our community partners. There was a bunch of us sitting in one row, staff, as well as representatives from Georgian College. Bruce Power was part of that row. And as the warden was providing responses to questions, everyone's kept leaning in and smiling in terms of the responses that were being provided. Warden, you did an incredible job during that session. You represented Grey County really well. You demonstrated the how we're all working together to in this case try to support our local economy through this changing landscape that we find ourselves in. And so I just want to do a shout out of that. We understand that it was recorded by TVO. It's going to be posted on their website at some point. Once we have that posting, we'll of course share that. Well worth a watch for those that were not able to attend and watch that panel. It was very well done. Want to thank all the staff that helped to formulate the briefs, who attended the sessions. Thank you for all the counselors who were able to attend those delegations as well. And we'll do a further follow-up with some information. We'll also be doing a media release based on some of the outcomes as well. But I'll share some further information with council and leave it at that. But I think the briefs went really well. And we have some next steps and commitments that were identified, and we'll follow up with those for sure.
Excellent, thank you. And I will say that Grey County was on the agenda twice because we had Director Cornell also speaking at a morning session, again with her expertise as our Director of Long-Term Care, but also with her leadership position with Advantage Ontario. So there was lots to celebrate in Grey County, live and present there. I'll just put it out if there's anything else that any county members who were attending, with whichever hat you happen to be wearing at that point in time, prior to the weather closing in on us. I do think CAO shirts are some sort of, even whether it's a report or, some sort of written in our written release to our community members, just some of the highlights that you wish that you could share at this point in time, be very helpful for all of us because we can take that back to our communities as well. Okay, good. So I don't see anything further there. Then I'll just see, is there any other business? Oh, sorry, Councillor Nielsen. Oh, I didn't see the hand up on my screen there. Sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Nielsen.
I was, thank you very much, Warden Marshall. I realize we're trying to rush through for weather. I'm just going to share a couple of quick stats that there was over 651 delegations received by the ministry. So they're across the province, and that there was over 2,400 delegates at the Roma conference. So it was the largest Roma conference yet. The slide deck, the material, the current sessions, even though you missed all of them because of the various hats that you wear, Madam Warden. There were some great conversations that were started. We're talking about homeless, talking about Indigenous rights, talking about the code of conduct and the upcoming election. It really was a fantastic conference. And a big shout out to the Grey County staff, as we are all rock stars when we were there. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nielsen, and both you and Councillor Dobreen bring good representation to the table when it comes to our association representation, and Councillor McKay, when as our next one around the corner, will be Good Roads as well. So with that, then I'll just put out a call. Is there any other business? Yes, Councillor Boddy.
Just a quick one on behalf of Councillor Milne. We'd like to thank the province of Ontario for consulting with Grey County on the resort condo tax classification.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, are there any notices of motion to serve today? Seeing no hands virtually or here in the chamber, then I'll call for a motion to adjourn. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? I'll take Councillor Eccles and I'll take Deputy Warden as seconding. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Drive safe, everybody.